Hey y'all, here are OS Reviews. In this video, we're taking a quick look at the Gladorn M18. These are wireless Bluetooth speakers that are quite compact and also very cost effective. For instance, the black version here is selling for $28, and then with coupon, 30% off, it's actually closer to about $20 a pop. But what makes it slightly more interesting in my opinion is it also has a RGBIC glow light there on the front that can change dynamically, showing various colors and flashing along with the beat of the music. It's also rated to be IPX6 splash proof, so if you drop it in a pool, for instance, it should still survive, and even comes in a few other colors for the fabric mesh here, including a version in red as well as a white version. A pink version can also be found, and those RGBIC lights again can show different colors simultaneously, including various patterns, a little bit reminiscent of some of the DeVoom products that we've seen in the past, including one here that reminds me of a Equalizer, other ones which reminds me of a lava lamp that you can cycle between, looking pretty neat as a night light as well. And they are using 8-watt drivers on the inside, rated for 20 hours of listening time before it needs to be topped up again, and also are using pretty up-to-date Bluetooth 5.3 chips inside, although it is the standard Bluetooth codecs of SBC and AAC as compared to LDAC or aptX lossless, but for $20 Bluetooth speakers, it's also mostly expected. And you can pick up a set for around $40 if you're trying to access the TWS mode. They can pair with one another to simulate the left and the right channels to give you a bit more of that stereo effect if you are consuming videos, for instance, or if you want even more volume output. So here are the specific dimensions, pretty compact, only around 3.6 inches tall, 3.8 inches wide. Also offers up to 20 hours of playback time, which is decent. However, that is with the LED lights turned off. With it on, the battery here is actually a little closer to around 12 hours before you have to charge it back up again. It is a pretty small speaker at the end of the day. However, the charging time is a little bit on the slower side, taking around 3.5 hours to go from 0 to 100. Perhaps that is one spec that I would like to see upgraded in the future. Topping it up in just 1 hour or 1.5 hours, I think that would be a little bit more reasonable, but it is what it is. And then on the top here, we have just a quick user guide. Further down below, you'll find the actual M18 speaker itself, and then located here on the edge is going to be just a USB Type-C charging cable. And so one accessory that you won't find in the packaging would be an aux cable or 3.5mm cable, and that is consistent with the I/O here on the back as well. So it looks like this model is only Bluetooth. You no longer have any wired connectivity, which also I think is a little bit of a shame. It would have been neat to have that as a backup option if you wanted to plug it into an iPod or MP3 player. So that trend of becoming more minimalistic comes at the expense of reducing some of those legacy ports. I guess as a casual speaker, which is really compact, it might be alright, but whether it's a deal breaker or not just depends on a case-by-case basis. In terms of that charging, by the way, it is technically a 1000 milliamp hour capacity inside, topping up at around 5 watts, and that is, again, that Type-C port on the back. Interestingly, the port here is not covered up by a flap, despite the water resistance rating, so it seems like they have coated the internals there to be water resistant, similar to on some modern smartphones where you no longer have to see a flap to have that resistancy. And otherwise, the material here is again crafted out of fabric, so it reminds me a little bit of something like a Google Nest Hub or an Amazon smart speaker in that sense, giving a slightly softer touch. On the front here we have all the controls, including for volume, pretty tactile, as well as play pause, and then a dedicated control here for just the 9 different lighting effects. We'll also point out that there is no companion app support on this particular model, so it is used as a dedicated one where you control all the effects directly just by tapping on the key up top to cycle between. So if they made it more pro model in the future, giving you the ability to control even more patterns from your phone app, customizing it like a pixel art display, I think that could also be pretty cool to consider. But again, at $20, it is what it is. It kind of reminds me of also something like a light bulb from afar because it is perfectly round, and then on the back here just kind of tapers off, and so they have a couple of feet at the bottom that prevents it from sliding around when you are setting it onto a table. The red version here, by the way, has the same exact look, although the text color is a little bit different just to make it maybe pop a little bit more. Overall, not bad looking from a design perspective. The two sides, though, don't really attach together using something like magnets, which would have been maybe neat to see to transform it into one larger speaker, but they are kind of just used as separate ones currently. Now here's a quick size comparison with a regular can of soda for reference, so you can kind of fit it into a cup holder, popping it into a backpack without too many problems, still relatively compact. Here it is next to something like a phone And there is also kind of a high logo there displayed by the LEDs underneath. It's actually a bit more pixel dense than expected, so it is technically capable of showing text. So that's why I think having that customizable companion app, if you wanted to use it as a bulletin board, that would have been a neat feature. Looping through some of the modes, you can tap on it once to turn it completely off to consume less power if you're using it in the daytime. Once again here to go into a kind of flame pattern effect. So case in point here, I would say some of the fire animations here with the LED beads getting diffused actually looks quite convincing. As you can tell, they're on a desk. Not bad at all for just a lighting piece as well. And then tap on it once again. Goes into this more dynamic one with, I guess, two different color beads, which are kind of bouncing around the outer parameters of the light as it slowly changes into other shades, including violets and blues. This one is a gradient effect that is a bit more subtle, as it is transitioning between all the colors of the rainbow, one at a time. This one here starts off as a point there in the middle, as it will be again rippling through the different colors that's capable of showing, and they are going to be dynamic and interactive. As you are listening to music, the beat of the sound will also make it pulse a little bit larger and smaller. We'll see that more later on in our demo when we discuss the sound quality. Once more here into another one that starts off in the center point and then slowly expands to fill the outer parameter. And this one here is one which is simulating, I think, waves or ripples of some sort, as it is just flashing across the front surface there. Once more here into a kind of rainbow RGB circle that's slowly going round and around, showing all the different colors that's capable of displaying. Here's another ambient mode that will slowly change into all the colors of the rainbow, and the entire pad here is now continuously lit, so it's changing the colors all at the same time at the maximum brightness that the lights here are capable of displaying. You can tap on it again, by the way, to pause it on a single color of your choice as well. So I guess if you timed it just right and pausing it at towards a yellow or white light, you can also use it as a small reading lamp or flashlight of some sort. However, you don't necessarily have a shortcut that can just loop through and more quickly jump directly into a white light, as well as you don't really get any brightness controls, making it dimmer or brighter. So that's why I think, again, having maybe that companion app support and a next-gen revision could make it even more versatile. But overall, definitely still does its job, and then just loops back again into all the other modes that we saw there from before. So here's a quick demo here, looping through all the patterns with both of the lamps here activated at the same time, flashing through the different animations. As you can tell, they're all looking pretty cool as a desk decor piece. A few other remarks: you can also charge the speakers while listening to music simultaneously with pass-through charging, which is good. And to enter the true wireless stereo mode, you can double tap on the O key here, or the power button, for them to first pair with one another. Let's actually give that a quick demo. And you'll hear that beep, confirming that the two sides have now been paired with one another. Then turning on Bluetooth on your device, you'll be able to find the Gladorn M18. A chime there will indicate that the speakers have been paired. Let's do a quick speaker test next. Connectivity felt pretty stable for the most part, didn't encounter too much latency on the left and the right sides. That being said, there isn't really any low latency mode like you find on some true wireless headphones, for instance. So if you are doing things like gaming, maybe that can be a little bit more noticeable, but for just casually consuming YouTube videos and Netflix even, I found it to still be a good enough experience. I also really like the equalizer mode, as you saw there in our demo, so when that comes to life, the patterns on the LEDs become a little bit more apparent as it bounces up and down when sound is playing back. That just adds a bit more of a fun touch. As for the audio quality, I would say it's also punching a little bit above its weight, considering that these are really compact speakers at the end of the day, with the RGBIC lighting perhaps being its main selling point. However, I also found it to be actually quite pleasant sounding. It doesn't distort too much at higher volume levels either, never sounds too screechy or piercing, anything like that, and packs a little bit more volume than expected. Sure, it's not going to be as loud as a boombox style speaker, but for one that you can take with you when on the road in the backpack, it can fill up smaller spaces, including a bedroom when you're in a car without any problems, and it's going to be significantly louder, as well as offering more depth, impact, including bass, compared to any phone speaker at the end of the day. So despite not being high-res audio certified, I still found it to be a pretty pleasant listening experience, and not bad when it comes to bass for a smaller Bluetooth speaker at the end of the day. You can feel a bit of that impact as you're listening to drum beats or EDM music as well. So I would put it on par with some of the JBL's, other Go or clip design speakers on the market as well, but these are just honestly a fraction of the cost, which is kind of impressive compared to some of the tier 1 brands. Although I guess one feature that you are missing here would be some type of lanyard strap, popping it onto the outside of a backpack, but again, you can easily put it into a cup holder or a water bottle holder instead. And to round things off, let's also do a quick surround sound test. So glad to report that the TWS mode does work as intended. They are recognized as true left and right separate channels. As you heard in those demos, it felt like some of the objects were moving across the screen, thanks to the speaker also shifting the sound from the left to the right, back and forth, making it a bit more immersive. So it's not just daisy chaining it together and amplifying the same audio source, but rather it is truly separating it into the left and the right. So I think these are actually quite cool for just $20 speakers. Some of the equalizer modes just makes it come to life even more. Again, a 3.5mm headphone jack would have been so neat if you wanted to use it like a pair of desk speakers, similar to the Creative Pebbles, connecting it to a computer, for instance, taking things to the next level with those dancing lights. It almost reminds me of a hybrid between some of those Govee smart lights with a speaker attached. Really is quite fun and dynamic, but as it is, you have to use it in the Bluetooth profile mode, which may introduce perhaps a touch more latency if you're being super nitpicky, but not bad for just casual media consumption, and also just consuming a bit more power since Bluetooth is on 24/7. But aside from that, audio quality honestly sounds better than expected for an ultra-budget Bluetooth speaker, as well as having a bit more of a convincing kind of animation effect as well for this price point. So if interested, you can check out more details in the links down below. A pretty cool Bluetooth speaker, all things considered. That has been the Gladorn M18. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews.